Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sparking Success. I'm Aaron Opalewski, and today I'm honored and really excited. We have a guest, Larry Drake, the former CEO of KUKA Systems North America, is with us today. And, Larry's someone I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him a ton, but from afar and just kind of watching him in a business setting and at some events that I was able to attend, he's someone I've tried to model, my leadership after, and I'm just extremely grateful that he agreed to be here with us today and have a conversation. So if you're not familiar with KUKA Systems North America is in 15 different countries, over 3,500 employees, and in the billions of dollars of revenue. And this man right here, he won't take all the credit. I heard him say this as he walked through, and he's right. It is about the team, but he had a lot to do with that and was leading the charge on that. And I'm excited to talk to him about that today. So welcome, Larry.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. It's quite an honor to be here. Really nice to meet your team. What a great crew here. I'm really super impressed with. I told you just earlier when we were off mic that it's always nice to walk into a place that's friendly and extremely professional. And I was very impressed with the crew here. And the whole setup here is pretty awesome. So you guys are, and I can't take the accolades because you're absolutely right. It's nice of you to say those nice things about me, but in reality, I just had a lucky crew with me. I mean, I really got fortunate to have the people I had at KUKA. It was awesome to work with them. And I miss that, after you retire. I've been retired now 3 years, and what I miss most is really the people.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily miss the customers.
Yeah.
Because normally by the time the customers call me, they're upset. But
there's something that needs to be solved.
Yeah,
right?
It's okay. That was your job. No worries. I enjoyed that part to a certain extent, but I don't miss it. I don't miss it. It was quite a blessing to work in that job for sure.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I mean, we have a great group. So, and specifically like in this room, I can't take any of the credit whatsoever. I think I helped put a few of these things up on the walls, but, or maybe the tape on the back, but,
cool studio.
EJ, and the team are really good at what they do. And I think that's, true, like across the board. We have 7 different teams right now, and we have leaders in each of those areas that are experts in their area. And it's really about everyone working together and doing things that are good for the customer first, for the company, overall. And then, through that, there's some individual success that just naturally comes. But, got to keep the other stuff at the forefront.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm super impressed. It's good. I've seen you, of course, Aaron, over the years. I worked at KUKA for 25 years. And you guys always supported all our stuff. It was awesome to have a supply base like we did. And really the funny thing is we used to always kind of do the structured thing in town with the Boy Scouts and all these different charities. And then we finally came to the conclusion many years ago to just have our own charity and donate out of that. And you guys really were supportive, man.
Yeah.
It's great to have Spark around. And you supply good people, so.
Yeah. Well, so we'll probably get into that. I'd like to start, though, if it's okay. Can you just tell us a little bit about your, story, life story, business story? It's pretty remarkable. As I was doing the notes for this, and I knew a lot of this, but I got to learn about it even more. And I was telling my wife yesterday, I'm like, hey, come check this out. I want you to read this. Like, it's
Not
much
remarkable. To say, yeah. I mean, I think all people who are like you guys here are really good at. Sometimes it's just in your stomach and your heart and in your head that you have this drive. And I was fortunate to get hooked up with people that had that. Clearly, I was okay with it myself. But I used to work for a company called Stellar when I was 16 years old. I started working for them.
Okay.
1976. You guys are all too young for that. And I just was the draftsman, screwed up the first year. And I don't think they used one of my drawings because I sucked at it. And then, worked for a couple of years there. I went to college in Ann Arbor. And when I got out of school, I stayed in Ann Arbor working for a couple of computer companies, designing circuits back in the day. Now it's rudimentary crap, but back then it was, of course, high tech. And then I got a call from a guy from Stellar, get your ass back here. You know, we need you back here. I was the only person that had gone to college as one of the owner's sons, and my father was the president of Stellar.
Okay.
And that's how I was in the business so young. I used to put board cover on boards when they had boards. You know, you guys grew up in the computer world. Back in the day, they had actually drawing boards. You saw them in historical photos, but we had drawings back then. And I got a good chance to watch the business from the inside out. Watched my father struggle, and, you know, went bankrupt a couple of times. And I was just so fortunate. One sad thing and a positive thing for me, though, my father was a really bad alcoholic.
Okay.
But he was highly functional, and he was a fun alcoholic. So, you know, there's mean ones and then there's fun ones, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's no good ones, but he was highly functioning, and he had lots of customers that loved him and employees that loved him. And in 1985, they turned on him, his partners, and kicked him out. Well, I was Larry Drake III. He was Larry Drake Jr. Of course, my grandfather was an executive at GM. And I couldn't stay, so I decided I got to leave.
Okay.
I literally went to 10, 15 different places where people, we got to leave, we're going to start our own company. And then all of a sudden I ran into a guy named Dave Kostowski, who I knew. He was a general manager of the Ford division at Stellar.
Okay.
And he said, I got a guy to back us. You know, money, because everybody doesn't understand, as you guys know, when you're running a payroll like you have here, you got to pay those people every week. Back in the day, now it's every 2 weeks or month sometimes if you're government, but in reality, you got to pay them every week. So you got to float, even in the contracting business, you got to float 90 days.
Oh yeah.
Right. So it's not, you know, cash flow wise, you can't sit there with your house mortgaged. You know, it just doesn't work, right? So I'm hearing this guy. We're in the basement of Red Run Golf Club. All these old guys there, they're all twice my age, and they're all thinking they're going to start a company by mortgaging $10,000 on their house. And I'm thinking, And this guy just chirps up and says, I got a guy. So I followed him out in the parking lot, asked him who's the guy, and it was a guy named Louis Tan. You ever hear Louis Tan?
I have not. No.
Great guy. You ever hear of Colton Bar?
Colton Bar.
Colton Bar. 15 Mile Road, one of the oldest engineering companies, competitor of Stellar.
Okay.
Kohler, Tan, and Bar. Barone. And Eugene Tan was the Tan. Well, Louis was his son, and he started Craftline.
Okay.
And Craftline was the guy that was going to back us. And the story's a little laborious here. I'm sorry for going so long.
No,
but
you're good.
It's a good story to tell you how this one dude who was a great guy. I didn't know him at all. He was a University of Michigan grad, so that helped me a little bit.
Yeah.
And he and we went and met with the dude, and he gave us like a $700,000 credit line.
Nice.
We burned 350 of it, and he closed us down.
And this was
A year and a half later,
year?
1986.
Okay.
I was 25.
And say that again. In a year and a half, you burned.
We burned. Yeah, we had a good business going. You
Okay.
know, we just did. I did the contract personnel side, kind of the same thing you guys do here.
Yeah, I saw it.
That was
I
my
didn't know
division.
that you.
That was my division because I did that
one
at Stellar. I was a
Yep.
recruiter and a sales guy, and it was cool because I learned a lot doing it. But so I kind of grew my business enough that we had cash flow. As you know, it's a nice cash flow game. The contract personnel. It just depends on your margins. But,
Yeah, you got to get it going, but once you do,
yeah, they'll call it the money wheel, right? Once you get the wheel turning, you can spin out money in 60 to 90 days. So that was working good, but when we took on some jobs in-house, which was my partner's job, we failed on those. So anyways, Louis was great. I'll never forget this. I'm sitting, it's Christmas, just like this. You know, it's Christmas season, and he's going to pull our note, and we're done. So it was only 1987, 88.
Yeah.
And I got, whatever.
That's a huge,
I go meet with
that's
this
a huge
dude.
note. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
huge note now, but back then,
Yeah, it was huge, but he had given us $700,000 or $800,000. I can't remember one of the two. And it was so funny because I'm sitting in his office in Hazel Park, and he's sitting there with his Jewish attorney or Jewish accountant, Sal. I never forget this. And Louis is Jewish also. And not that means anything, but I knew nothing about their culture. And Sal was extremely conservative. And I'm Saturday morning sitting like this in blue jeans, and Louis, what are we going to do? We got to find a way. I'm 27 years old. He goes, I told him, I said, I got the right guys now, Bob Long and John Eaton. Two guys that we couldn't bring because Dave Kostowski pissed him off.
Okay.
And I said, I can get those guys now. I said, but I need another $100,000. and I said, but I'll work for you the rest of my life to pay you back every nickel I owe you. But I said, but give us one more chance. And I'll never forget Sal. This, he's got to be in his mid 80s, right? Some old dude, little guy. He said he looks over at Lewis. He goes, "Give the kid a chance," And from that point on, we kicked butt. And
That's awesome.
And we had that was probably the only time in my life. You've been clearly you guys have done a lot of this stuff because you're where you are today because you failed a couple times and you had some difficult times. And
right.
Getting through September 11th, getting through the crisis in 2007 and 8, banking, getting through COVID, of course, was massive. To drive through that stuff is a testament itself that you guys survived. And the same thing for us then. And it was cool because it was the first time in my life I ran into a wall I couldn't get around or get under or go around. It was like, mother, father, what am I going to do here?
Yep.
And Lewis helped me through it, and he taught me so much. My father taught me a lot about how to treat customers, but Lewis taught me about business. Huh. Taught me how to be I didn't even know how to read a balance sheet or a P&L statement. That's how weak I was.
You watched your dad do that growing up, though?
This is the reason I brought the alcohol thing up is only for one reason, not because I want to diss my father because he was an awesome dude. He passed away many, many years ago. The reason I brought it up is because he was an alcoholic, and when I came back to Stellar, I ended up going to all these meetings I should have never been at as a 23, 24-year-old. I'm at the attorneys' meetings, the accountants' meetings, customer meetings. I remember being with highest level people at General Motors. I had no business being there. I'm duck hunting with these guys. But we had a great time, and I got to meet those guys. And then when I got to Taurus, we started Taurus. That was the name of the company, Lewis and I. Lewis was a major partner. I was a minor partner, 20%. And then Kostowski owned 30%, 29%. And then, of course, I worked my way up to being the major owner. But the funny thing is in the big picture, we really never had, I would say we really never had a spot where I thought, wow, we're not going to succeed. I always felt somehow you're going to find a way through, you're going to find a way through, you're going to find a way through. Yeah. And that served me well when I came to KUKA because it was just, exponentially a much more bigger company that you had to kind of manage. But anyways, Taurus was awesome. I immediately got a job from General Motors. You remember the Fiero program? Fiero? It's a plastic.
I know the Fiero. Yeah.
You guys are too young.
So
the Fiero.
I know what it is.
The Fiero was. They called it the P car at General Motors. It was. It was it's supposed to be a commuter car.
Yeah.
And they designed this vehicle, and we had won the body side system for that. And I got it just purely because of my name, Aaron. Literally, Aaron. I walked into General Motors Tech Center, told them I was Larry Drake, and I want to see Bob Donetti. And Bob Donetti, you know what an EIC was at General Motors? Engineer in charge. They were they called them level 9s. Okay. So super high level guy, right? He ran all divisions.
Like not a person you can walk in and say,
No. But the lady that was at the Fisher Body lobby, I said, hey, I'm Larry Drake. I want to see Bob Donetti. I walk up to Bob's office. He goes, can I swear in this or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize. Apologize to the crowd. No, I said, I walked into his office. He goes, who the fuck are you? I said, well, I'm Larry Drake. He goes, no, you're not. I said, well, I am Larry Drake. He goes, the Larry Drake I know don't look nothing like, oh, you're probably talking about my father. He goes, oh, you're Larry Drake's son? He goes, sit your ass down. So I just used my father's name, honestly, to get into the office. And he ended up working out that we got a big program from them and took off from that point on. It was cool.
Wow.
Cool to do that. And that's why I give my father and the people I work with so much, because it really wasn't me. I had only the cojones to go up there and do it, but how hard is that? I trick-or-treated, What's the big deal?
Well, you can't get if you don't ask, and
I'm a big fan of that statement.
And I think, we have a core value, like conquering adversity is the recipe to success. So it's like, you got to be willing to get some rejection and learn from it. And, ultimately, a lot of our biggest failures have been, success, like our biggest successes in the long run. So
sure,
you got to be
big fan
willing to take some punches along the way.
Well, yeah. I always ask somebody, one of the biggest things when I was interviewing people, especially executives, is, okay, tell me about your worst failures. And if the person said they didn't have any, I didn't hire them.
Yeah.
Because in reality, if you didn't fail, it means you didn't try. It's like skiing, right? If you don't fall down, you ain't learning.
You're either lying or you haven't accomplished
And you're not
much.
impressed with me by telling me I had no failures. Because, and that's nothing against someone who does say that. Just the fact that you learn more from failure than you do from success. Because success, you think it's easy, right?
Yeah, we were talking about the COVID time when we moved in here, and we were saying hi to so many people, so we stopped, talking about it. But, we we actually downsized our office, which was tough for me because I'm like big on growth and
expansion.
It was just tough, you know. And I'm proud that we didn't lay anybody off during that time, but we didn't hire, you know, people for a period of time. And we really took our business from, we had 9 different locations with just like 1 or 2 people in them across the country. And we ended up shutting all those down and then consolidated, you know, our main office. And there's moments of that were tough, even though when you're in it, it's like you kind of just keep going at it
plowing,
every day.
Yeah. But when you're laying in bed at night, you're thinking of that.
Yeah.
You're thinking, God damn, what's that family going to do? I don't give them they lost their job. You know, back then there was so much government money floating in the game that you could grab some of it to take care of people, but it was stressful. No doubt about
it popped back pretty quick, but the first couple months of that were odd, you know, for us, and it was dead, then it wasn't. We just kind of hung in there, and we were in a good spot where we could do that. But if things stayed down for like two years, like I think what you learn is
put everybody out of business.
The storm will pass, right? So it's like have a good foundation and be ready for storms. But you know, we came out of that. We switched our model to centralized, and we took off, and we were much more profitable too. And fast forward, you know, 18 months, and we had an opportunity to buy this building with some partners, and that's what we ended up doing. And
that's awesome.
That's been good for us, and you know, kind of expanded our footprint here. And we have a lot of people that work remote or, you know, hybrid, but a lot of people that are in here every day and people that float in. You know, it's been a good thing for us.
I think that. You know, you remember Jack Welch, right?
Mm-hmm.
From GE, if you read his book, and everybody. I remember when I first started at KUKA, so 2000, rough and dirty, 99, late 99, 2000, I took over, and the CEO of Ford at the time was Nasser.
Yeah,
and Nasser was a disciple of Jack.
Okay,
and he was doing the big, I'm going to cut 10% every year.
Okay.
You know, remember that game that was in his book? That was the biggest thing talked about with Jack Welch was there's 10% of fat in every company. Every year we're going to. So what happened was, at least at Ford, was they were, you know, you're my buddy, Aaron, so I'm gonna make sure your rating's high so you're not one of the 10%. So what happened was it just created little fiefdoms, right? It was a big disaster.
Yeah.
But if you do what you did, which is you have a downturn, you clean house. You know, you get efficient, right? You find a way to get through it, and that's kind of how we did it at KUKA. You know, September 11th, everything was shut down. 6 months, we didn't lay anybody off. It wasn't easy. It was fun.
And you started at KUKA in '99, right?
Yeah, late '99, November.
Okay.
Late number, yeah, '99. So,
okay.
So September 11th.
Been there that long? Like
no, but we had things rolling, and we had a lot of work, and every customer shut it down, right? And so we just pulled everybody together and said, okay, we're not going to lay anybody off. We're going to use our bank from our PTO banks. We had millions of dollars in that. We're going to pay everybody through that. We did a lot of cool things together. We donated money to each other. You know, as an executive, my rate's higher than, let's just say, you know, somebody in engineering. So if I donated 100 hours of PTO, it was $200 to them, right? And so we just had this PTO bank, and we started doing that in September, right after September 11th. We donated each other, got through it, and then we got all back on company running. We gave them all their money back. We gave them all the PTO back, but we somehow survived it. And the coolest thing about that was one of our employees, I still don't to this day know who did it, they put us up for Company of the Year with Fox News. And the Fox News clip was great. Terry Bradshaw interviewed me, and they had all these film crews coming through our company. You know, it was a scam. As I learned, got older, it was a typical, you know, like a magazine. We want to do an article on you, Aaron, and your company, and then they call all your suppliers to support them. You know, that's kind of how it works. And I said, look, I'll pay for this myself. Don't go to my suppliers. You know, that's not fair. And so they did a really nice national 5-minute thing on Fox News. That's awesome. And it was great. And Terry Bradshaw interviewed all our people, and it was cool. You know, it was one of the things I can think where we were kind of going like this, and then sometimes it's just attitude. You know, your attitude kind of kicks up because, wow, we are a good company, and then that kind of feeds one thing to another and becomes a snowball, and it was cool, and that really helped us a lot because it made us proud of our company. You know, and not arrogantly, I hope, but definitely proud, and pride is not a bad thing in that case. You know, confidence, that kind of stuff.
So cool. I have there's one question I really want to ask you, like, because it's like, man, I have a unique opportunity here. So I was looking at the notes of when you transitioned over to KUKA and where you guys were at in revenue is right around where we sit now. You know, and our big mission, you know, right now we say is to create 100,000 opportunities a year, which, you know, we do all different types of placements, services, you know, and workforce solutions, things like that. I think we're going to cross 4,000 this year. So we got a long way to go.
Cool.
You know, okay, that's 4% on that big mission. Mathematically, we believe probably if this keeps up, because our margins, we're doing more engineering and stuff like that. So this probably happens sooner, but
Sure.
like, let's just say, let's stick with the math behind that says that we'll be doing over $1 billion by the time that happens.
Cool.
And so you have, there's not many people I can ask, like, hey, like from where you started, you know, that the coming in at about 60 million and then to take it over 1.1 billion, what kind of advice would you give us?
Yeah, that's a great question in a sense that if you said what are the components of that 1.1 billion, some of it's acquisitional. You know, we acquired, at the time when I took the job, I was just Taurus Systems, little tiny company, 15, 20 million. And KUKA was a $60 million company losing 19 million that year in P&L. And we were a 15 million company. We made usually 18% net margin, which was good because, you know, the contract business doesn't allow that. You know, there's no way you get that kind of margin out of contracting people.
Not out of contract labor.
It's impossible unless you're doing doctors, I guess. I don't know, but I can tell you it's difficult. And
if you're doing only contract labor, that's next.
I mean,
to
if you're
impossible.
marking up 50%, you got 33% gross margin. By the time you pay all your stuff, you know, you're down to 5%. So in reality, we were pretty strong, but we did a lot of work with Pico. They were my biggest customer. I knew the Wisney family really well. Did a lot of work with them. We did work with every supplier. You know, Sanyo Machine, Lam Technicon, Paslin, Valiant, KUKA. And the funny thing is KUKA was my worst customer.
Really?
I remember taking you probably don't know Bob Geyer, but he's a great guy. And
That
Bob
name
Geyer,
sounds familiar.
he was a vice president at the time at Ford. He was a vice president Ford for KUKA. So
Okay.
he handled that business, right? And Bob's a great guy. He really is a good guy. And I remember going, after they bought my company and I was just running my own company, best summer of my life, right? They just made me a millionaire and I'm not working for KUKA yet. So they bought it in 98. I moved in 99, right? So I'm on my own for like all of 99 and till the fall of 99.
Okay.
And we were making our numbers and, you know, you guys are successful now. So at the time we were good, making good money, but I never took a nickel out of the company. We just kept pouring it in because everybody was going to computers then. We were on the board in half, right? So we were taking the money and every nickel we had other than our salary, we were rolling it back into buying computers and building buildings and blah, blah, blah. And so we really didn't have any cash laying around. You know, that wasn't normal. You weren't spinning out wealth. You were just purely grinding to grow the business, right?
Yeah.
And clearly, I would always advocate that because eventually the wheel spins out a lot of cash for you. But at the time, we were nobody, and I could make 30-40% margin on Pico work doing it for 30. This is crazy because back then it was $32 rate for design.
That is crazy.
And we were charging KUKA $40 and we were losing money on KUKA and we were making money on the 32, doing exactly the same thing. And that just told me, wow, these guys are much more efficient. Why is that? You know, and I had this wonderful chance as a sub-supplier to the, you know, you got the Ford, GM, Chrysler, Mercedes, all those guys.
Yep.
Then you got the OEM, you know, the manufacturing equipment, you know, Pico, at the time Pico, now Kamau.
Yeah.
And, you know, KUKA and all those guys at the tier. And we were down here tier 2, right? So I had no view to the top level of anything except for the guys. And I'll tell you a funny story. Do you guys know who Larry Wisney is? Mm-hmm. So Larry Wisney was a son of Tony Wisney.
Okay.
And Tony was one of the original partners with Pico.
These are the Pico
Guys, yeah, Wisney family.
Pico, yeah.
They were the ones that started Pico, right? So this would have been... do you guys remember the Automotive Classic banquet we used to have here in town. Biggest thing ever, the Welding Society Ladies Night.
No.
Oh, it was crazy. Literally 2,000 people would go to the Rensen, and all the executives from the automotive industry would go there black tie with their wives and stuff.
Okay.
And then they'd hand out gifts and stuff. And Pico always handed out like $150,000 worth of stuff. Hey, a gold necklace. They would palm the guy from Ford. I probably shouldn't say that. Hey, cut that.
We'll cut it.
Old days. These guys are all dead. Anyways, it was the old world, right? And I was told, I just started Taurus, and I was told you got to get, if you want to get work, you got to go to Pico. They're the big horses in town.
Okay.
So, and I was always used to doing work with GM, Ford, and Chrysler Direct. That was at Stellar. That we didn't have any sub accounts with the tier 2. With tier 1, we were all OEM level.
And it's different, right?
Well, yeah, whole different contract. You're doing firm contracts, and we were doing T&M or all information available contract stuff like that. And so someone said, "Oh, you got to meet this guy, Larry Wisney. So I couldn't afford a ticket because I just started the company. I was 25. So I put a suit on. And I went down there after they let everybody in, and I just kind of worked my way in. There are 2,000 people there. They're not going to know who you are, right? So we're at the Rensen, and someone says to me, that's Larry. I said, do you know who Larry Wisney is? I said, yeah, it's him over there. I go, I'm on him. So I zip over to him. I said, hey, Larry, I'm Larry Drake, blah, 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 blah. I'd like to do some work for you. And he was drunk like a skunk, right? And he says to me, there's like 5 or 6 guys standing around. He says to me, come and see me in the morning, kid. So I'll be there.
That's
I have
awesome.
no idea where he works. I have no idea where his office is, right? So the rest of the night, I'm trying to figure out where he
Figure it out.
So next morning, I get his office. I'm there at like 7:30, sitting there, 3 hours. I'm in the lobby. I'll never forget. I'm sitting in the lobby at Pico, the old Pico building on Telegraph, and these 2 girls come out. I'll never forget this. I was 25, and these 2 girls come out, and they had these just beautiful girls, and they keep coming out saying, Mr. Wisney's not here yet. Well, yeah, he was drunk last night, of course.
Yeah.
So by about 10:30, I think he shows up. And he calls me in.
Hungover.
He calls me in. He has no idea who I am.
Yeah.
He has no idea what I'm there for. He just lets me. He was kind. He really was nice, and he's not known for that, just so you know. Larry was kind of a tough guy. But he let me in because he had no idea what I was there for. And I'm telling him, we can do design for you guys. And so finally, his dad, this is the funniest part of the story. His dad, Tony, Joe's his brother. Tony comes in, and he's got this big, huge office, right? And we're in the middle of this office. I'm in front of this desk, and Larry's sitting here, and the door's back over there. And Tony comes and goes, I got to swear again. Not my words. They're Tony's. He goes, where the fuck are the orange golf balls? Larry says, they don't make him anymore, Dad. So now I know it's his father, right? I know he's the original guy, right?
Yeah.
So he comes over to me, and I'm sitting down. He's standing next to me. He goes, who the fuck are you? I jumped up, Larry Drake. So at that point, Larry Wisney says, hey, go see Don Hemberg and Don Owens. They'll take care of you. Okay, cool. Now I got to go find out who these guys are. But they gave me a job, and that got our account going just because, whatever, you go and find and talk to somebody. And he was a man of his word, though. He did help me, and he did, he had no idea who he was, but he hooked me up. So
Man.
was
That
fun.
took some guts.
No, not really, because when you're 25,
Yeah.
if someone turns you down, it's like going up to a pretty girl. You want to go on a date, they say, no, hey, there's another one. But that was a big whale, though, because in reality, that was the biggest guy in town. And when you got hooked up with them, and they were very professional.
Yeah.
Really professional, really great company. We built an organization with them that was second to none. They were great. And we did a lot of work for Valiant, the Soltz brothers, and they're still around, although they sold to the Chinese. A lot of work for Lamb Technicon when they were alive. And the great thing when we, to get back to the original reason we started talking about this, was we acquired, at the time when I went over to KUKA, IWK owned all of these companies. They bought my company. They bought a company called Key Welder. I don't know if you heard of them.
Yeah.
Little company, $35-40 million in revenue company. And then they bought KUKA. They had KUKA. They had started here, just a tiny little plant, $10 million company doing small tools and stuff. And they won that big GMT 600 program, which lost them millions. And that put them on the map. And then Ford gave them a global contract for underbodies.
Okay.
Framers and body sides went to Pico because Ford went to the Ford 2000 strategy, which means global OEMs to build underbodies, body side framing, and then closures.
Okay.
And KUKA at the time was given the underbodies globally. So we had a guaranteed account with Ford for their full service supplier. They called it FSS. So that kind of gave us a door into that. That was kind of cool. And I just got to the company when that all started. And KUKA was failing miserably. They literally would ship tools with thousands of open issues. And as you know, when you're shipping steel and robots and clamps and weld guns and conveyors and transfers and sealer systems, all that stuff, if it's not burned out in your plant, it costs you millions in their plant because they're all watching in their union and the things that go on. So KUKA was failing. Keywalder was very successful, and Taurus was okay, but we were just, literally just a bump on a log. And so I went back to the board after 6 months on the job and said, guys, we got to merge these companies together. We have 3 administrations. We have, this guy's blaming this guy. It's a big mess. Yeah. And when I went to the board in Germany, they basically said, we don't do that. You guys run your own turf. And I said, well, we're going to fail then. Either you let me do that or, we're never going to move forward. And after some serious consternation, 2.5 hours, the board grinding out of the room, came back in and said, okay, do it. So we had a military operation, Aaron. We literally had multiple buildings. We went to every building, and we, for example, I never fire an executive without making sure I write down everything they do and what's important, and make sure there's a person assigned to every single one of those things, so nothing hits the floor. So we did all that for a week, figured out who we're going to keep, who we're not going to keep, and because we literally had all this administration at Keywalder, all this administration at KUKA, which was bureaucracy city. Sure. They literally were like the federal government. And then there's Taurus, which was a tiny little company with no overhead. We actually worked. We were, as owners, we were actually doing stuff, right?
Yeah, we were doing stuff.
And so we took a month to get our crap together, and then we went to all these buildings like a SWAT team. And, okay, you're out, you're out, you're out. Everybody come to the theater up here on Mound in 59, and we had 1,000 people at the theater or whatever it was, and we told them, here's the future. From that point on, it was the coolest job of my life.
Were you running it at that point?
Yes, I was. Okay. I was technically in late '99. Mr. Wiedemann, Gerhard Wiedemann, was the president of KUKA Systems North America. It was called KUKA Flex at the time, a weird name, but it was KUKA Flexible Production Systems. But he was German, and he was really running the German company, so he didn't want to be here. His wife, didn't want him here, and he was a wonderful boss, though. What a great guy. And he said to me, okay, I remember when he offered me the job, I called my wife. I said, can you believe what these guys think I can do? I ain't qualified for this shit. You're nuts.
How old were you at that point?
39.
39? Yeah.
He came in, and then this one guy comes, the chairman of the company, Hans Farr. He's literally, as they say, blue bloods. You ever hear of farm implement equipment? If you're not a farmer,
have to go check it out.
Yeah, no, it's no big deal. But basically, it's a German farm, like John Deere.
Yeah.
It's like John Deere International Harvester, right? He's the heir of that, and his wife was the heir of the Mauser family, the guns. Yeah. So these guys lived up, in this castle. I mean, literally, when I went to their house, castle. And he came before they bought our company, and he was going to interview me, and I thought he was some like M&A guy, right? I have no idea he's a freaking CEO. Sure. So he comes in my office at KUKA or at Taurus. And I'm sitting there. I got golf shit on the walls and stuff. I just took up golf at the time, and I was a farmer. Grew up on a dairy farm. Yeah. My first, let's say 8 years or something like that, I would go to the farm all the time. My mom was on a dairy farm, so he found out I was a farmer, and from that point on, he treated me completely different. But I didn't know who he was. I'm telling you, Aaron, the dude I thought was an M&A guy. I found out afterwards, like I said earlier, he was the man. So I'm talking to this guy. Hey, you want to talk to any of my people? There's a conference room. Call them in. Ask them how we run the company. You got carte blanche here, whatever you need. And but I didn't really want to get bought by KUKA, to be honest with you. Okay. I mean, KUKA was like number 20th on the list of 10 because they were just a huge behemoth, corporate mess in my mind. They had so many layers of administration, and you go to Pico, they're a job shop. Yeah. If you ever heard, you guys are a job shop too. Yeah. But the old days of a job shop where everybody worked, including administrators. You're out there doing stuff. You're not just sitting in your office hanging out. And KUKA was completely different. Everybody was all red tape. I mean, even to the point where the shipping and receiving guy would not let a guy like you, if you're a project manager coming in for getting some parts that you need, you're in the big bin, and you didn't have the document perfectly figured out, written out, he'd throw a chair at you. I had to fire the guy for doing that once because he wouldn't. I said, here your job is to help people.
Yeah.
If this young kid here doesn't know how to fill the document out, sit down with him and show him how to fill it out, And that was really the problem with KUKA. They were literally very rule-driven.
Gotcha.
And I could not hand off to you. I have this weird saying I used to say when I first started, that our business has 9 handoffs. I got the sales guys to the estimator, to the proposal guys, to the estimators, to the project team, to the engineering team, to the purchasing, blah, blah, blah. Controls, of course, after mechanical.
Yeah.
All those handoffs have to be clean, right? Otherwise, information doesn't get passed. And that's why you always want to hire B students instead of A students, because a 3.0 guy going through college is probably going to have the ability to be a 4.0, but he had some fun, right? And he has to communicate. Yeah. And there are places for 4.0s and those guys that are geeks, great spots, and they're wonderful people, but they can't communicate, right? They don't. Yeah. You have to pass on the message to the next guy. And I used to sit in front of all the guys and I'd say, everybody knows what a football field is. Go Lions, because there's 100 yards to a football field, so it's a perfect analogy.
Yep.
I got a bucket of water. I'm on the goal line. I got to run to the 50-yard line and hand it to Aaron. You got to take that bucket of water and run it back and hand it to another person. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of that bucket of water. If I bring that bucket of water half full, I didn't do my job very well. Or if I'm so tired I get to the 20-yard line, I didn't quite fulfill my mission, right? Mm-hmm. But the worst thing you can do is have the guy standing at the 50 yelling at me and making fun of me, as opposed to get off your ass, come down to the 20, help the guy, explain to him, hey, next time I need you to bring it all the way because I got a job to do too, but you help him.
Yeah.
And you do that at least twice, and maybe 3 times. After that, maybe you got the guy in the wrong spot. But you constantly are, not only are you having to do it on time, you got to do it to the right spot, and you got to bring a full bucket. In other words, you got to finish your project or your accomplished your mission, your role. And it's just a whole bunch of handoffs that have to be clean. And that's super hard when you have separate companies doing all that.
Yeah.
Hence, we merged them together, and engineering just became seamless. And you guys are in engineering here, so you know it. And our mechanical guys, you're a big part of how successful we are in the shop. Our pipe fitters. I didn't know this when I got there. I didn't know nothing about this. Honestly, I was a design guy, and I wasn't even good at that. And that's why they put me in management. And you can't do it, so do it. So lead it. And I got there, pipe fitter. I know what they're talking about. I did some plumbing because I used to rebuild houses. I had no idea what was going on, and I learned so much from the people. They were so kind to me that they took the time to explain the business, and I was not afraid to dive in there and see what's going on. But that was probably the best thing we did, because that really kind of energized the company. And as you know, you can take. We probably had 20% overhead, which is stupid. And then we got down to 4% overhead, not including sales, so just G&A. Mm-hmm. So 4%. Some of that you grow the top line, like you guys are doing. You grow the top line, you don't grow your administration.
Leverage it better.
Just exactly by pure math alone, you're gonna make a bunch of money that way. So
you said it was at 20, and you guys took it to 4.
What's that?
You said it was at 20, and you took it to 4. Is that right?
Yeah, it was about 18.6%. It was 24%, 18.6 at Key, 24% at KUKA, and we were about 3% at but we got rid of. The good thing is the previous owners and administration of Key Welder wanted to retire, and he had lived a great. Mr. Ulmer, he was a nice guy. I was told to just watch him; he'll help you. And first time I walked in his office, he goes, "Get the fuck out of here." He treated me like crap because I was, and rightfully so. I was a kid. I said, "Hey, I'm just here to help. I'm not trying to step on your toes." And I was told I didn't have to work with you guys at KUKA. I get it, but we should probably work together. And in the end, it was nice that he kind of bowed out, because that took the whole administration out of the game.
Yeah.
So we could just take really the working people and stuff them underneath our leadership, and then of course that saved 18.6% right there. All those were gone. All accounting, all legal, all the IT, all that kind of stuff gone.
So you guys were able to clean things up operationally.
Yeah.
And from there, did it just kind of take off?
It did. Of course, you got to remember, this was June 6th. June 6th, we had, D-Day, whatever you want to call it, what's that one thing, the Saturday Night Massacre. It was tough. It was. We had people crying. It was sad. And we did it on a Thursday on purpose. I did it on a Thursday, so we had a day for the company to just get over it, Friday, and talk. I said, talk about it. You lost some of your friends. I get it. We didn't get rid of any operating people. It was just strictly administrative people. But they were there for a long time, and we took care of them.
Okay.
We would never let a guy or girl go without that. But I remember the HR lady, Barb. She was crying in my office. I said, Barb, as hard as this is, you have to stick with it. This is the right thing to do for the company, and either the company goes under or we take a hit, right? And as it turned out, we took off until September 11th. The whole world stopped. But we had to already change the culture, which I think is important.
Okay.
That you change the culture, and I told him, I brought him into. I remember my boss. I had just taken a job 2 days before, and we go to Christmas party, and everybody's wonderful with this big huge company, KUKA, and making money like crazy. Little did they know they were losing millions. And Wiedemann handed me the mic. He goes, "Hey, can you talk to the people?" Christmas party. There's maybe 300-400 people there. And I said, my observation after 1 week is everybody's pushing their own wall. Aaron's over on that wall, EJ's over there, I'm over here. Everybody's pushing on separate walls. But if we all push on the same wall, we probably could be successful and knock it over. But we're also in our own little world here. We're not working together. I said, that's the one thing we got to work on is work together. Yeah. If I fall down, please pick me up. And if you fall down, I'll make sure I pick you up. And you got to do that and to create kind of that culture of support. And of course, football. I played football, and you can't find a better sport for working together.
Yeah,
I'm sure all other sports are good too. I'm not saying, golf pretty much by yourself, but football, you got to trust your lineman, you got to trust your running back, you got to trust your quarterback, your coach, all those kind of things. And that's an analogy you can apply to business, in my opinion, in a heartbeat.
So, I mean, you guys grew so much over the years. Like, there's no way that happens without you growing too.
Well, we did some, let's say, strategic acquisitions. You know Utica Enterprises.
Yep.
Stefan and Tom Carter, and they were always our competitor, but we never went head to head with them. Other than at a little bit, we went head to head with them at Chrysler.
Yeah.
Because they were an underbody company. But normally we didn't quote against them. They got their piece. We got our piece. Ford, we had our own account.
Yep.
And, of course, General Motors, we didn't do any work with General Motors at the time. Little stuff, chassis decking stuff, but nothing, no big body shop business. And Tom and Steph, I get a phone call from my boss, Dr. Reuter. He's the chairman of the company. And he says, "Hey, Larry, I got two guys sitting in front." He's in Germany. I'm over here. He goes, I got two guys sitting in front of me. He goes, "They say they know you." I said, "Oh, well, who are they, Figure I'm in trouble, right? What did I do now?
What did I do?
And he goes, Tom Carter and Stefan Wanchek. I go, "Oh, yeah, I know those guys. Utica. Great guys. Tell them hi for me," right?
Yeah, right.
I grew
right
up
down
with
the street.
Literally grew up with them, right? I was, and Till says, "Well, they want to sell their company. Would you be interested in buying them?" I said, "Am I on speakerphone?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, I'm 90% sure I don't want to buy them, but I'm 100% sure I want to look. In other words, I want to go see what they're doing."
Yeah.
Because
there
you get a free look into somebody else's closet.
Yeah.
You get to see what's going on, right? Yeah. So we spent almost 8 months. I went to dinner with those guys every Wednesday night.
Really?
For 8 months, working the deal. And they were the most gracious guys you could see. And I had a bad opinion of them because they bought up all these scraps. And that's because Stefan was part of a bank, and he had access to whenever a company like Lamb Technicon or who was it Citation, all these companies around town that were going out of business, he grabbed them
up,
for a nickel on a dollar. He's a smart businessman, that dude. And I learned a lot from him too. But they were very gracious. We worked together, and all they cared about, they could have sold to the Chinese and made 3 times what we paid them. Easy. Now, we paid them on an earnout, which is the best deal for the buyer in the world, in my opinion, an earnout. Because if we make the money, we pay. If we don't make the money, we don't, right?
Yeah,
that's a good deal.
It's a great deal.
And they were willing
Especially
to do
for
it.
the buyer, right?
Oh, yeah. If you're the buyer, I don't know if I like it as a seller. I wouldn't do it as a seller because you got lots of tentacles into it. But they were great to work with. We made a lot of money with them, and they had great people. Man, they had great people.
What year was that?
That's a wonderful question. Late teens. Probably 7-8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago now.
I thought it was like 2013 or 14.
Could be.
But no.
Yeah, it could be. As you know, when you get older.
Yeah, because I feel like I don't know when it was. Maybe like I thought it was 13 or 14, but I remember when that was.
Could be, yeah.
When that was happening.
And the great thing about them too, same situation. Stefan and Tom wanted to retire, so they bailed out, and all the administration they pulled out, and they kept their own other businesses going, and they got a lot of other businesses, right?
Yeah.
So I just took the profitable businesses. It was the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And all the guys we brought were awesome. All the people we brought were just great people. So we immediately took X and Y together and became XYZ plus because it was like a supercharger, right? It was super cool.
And that just really,
Yeah,
I mean,
and then
things just started
you ever hear of a guy named Bob Reno?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Reno,
we were talking to Bob the other week.
Yeah.
We work with them still.
yeah, Reno. So my boy Reno, I asked LaRose, I said, Mikey, my good friend, I said, Mike, where in the city is the best aerospace guy? Because we need to start an aerospace division.
Yeah.
We need to branch out.
I love it. Let's go find the best person.
Yeah, I said, so you tell me who's the best guy. He goes, hey, I know this guy, Bob Reno. I said, okay,
Yeah.
get him out for dinner. Let's go. So I said, here, look, Bob, you got to come and work for me. I don't care what it costs. We're going to get you. And here's our plans. We're going to grow X, Y, and Z. And I'll commit to you that you can get 3 years running free, and I'll fund you whatever it takes. And we grew that to about $500 million.
Yeah.
And that was because we won. Bob had such good, if you hire a sales guy, this is funny since you are one. Whenever I'd hire a sales guy,
Yeah.
I would say, okay, take me to your 3 best accounts,
Okay.
your closest accounts, people you go. And if we go to those 3 best accounts and we're walking through the lobby,
Yeah.
he's the wrong guy or girl.
Yeah. We should be going through
We should be going to the side door with the badge, right?
Yeah,
So
there
I
you
get
go.
to Lockheed Martin. We're walking right in the F-18 plant, right on line with the vice president. We go to Northrop Grumman. We're right on the B-1 bomber line, right from the side door.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Bell helicopter, we flew into Fort Worth, Texas, right in the side door. We go into Spirit Aerosystems in Wichita, side door. Bob knew everybody. He's
All
a
right,
crazy
this is
dude.
good.
He's crazy. I mean, he's a lot of fun. You went on a golf trip with a guy to have fun, go with Reno. But he lived an incredible life, but he had connections like you wouldn't believe. And we won the Joint Strike Fighter job, the F-35 Lightning, whole fuselage for Northrop Grumman, all automated.
Yeah.
With first time they ever built a military jet that was not manual.
Yeah.
It was cool. Great job. And the people we work with at Northrop were awesome. Great people.
Man, you're giving me some ideas right now. There's someone that we're actively recruiting.
Well, you got to know now with the new Trump administration, there was a whole list of stocks you want to buy if Trump wins, and of course, vice versa if Harris won. And a lot of those are uranium. You saw uranium was up 25%. Of course, everything's up crazy. Bitcoin, it's like nuts.
Yeah, everything's
Everything's going nuts. I think that'll quell down probably once.
we're in the honeymoon stage of that.
Sure,
Yeah.
and I can't imagine it going. Cool that it is. We're all getting more wealthy, but that doesn't help the average person though, other than their 401k. But in reality, that was we got Bob, and he grew that business, and we built the building for him, and all the machinery, and then the Chinese bought KUKA.
Yeah. And then you had to get rid of that.
And we had to divest of it in 3 months, otherwise the deal wouldn't go through. So we had to go to
remember that too,
Washington, and so that was a pain in the butt. That sucked.
In 3 months.
Oh, it was brutal.
And you guys just done the expansion on KCT at that
Oh
point
yeah,
too?
yeah. We
But
put on the machine shop, spent millions on a 5-axis boring machine, and whatever. Yeah, we had to sell it. I tried to sell the building with it, but they didn't take it. That was a good experience, though. I never learned. You ever hear of something called? Oh fudge! Now I can't think of it. It's if a Chinese or a foreign company buys a piece of a defense company, you have to go through this approval from the federal government.
I've
was
never
crazy.
experienced that, but I recall hearing that's what you guys.
Oh yeah, literally it was in between when Trump won in 2016 to the time he was inaugurated. So Obama was still in office, and do you know at the Treasury building we had to go meet there with the federal government, and the Treasury building was built during the war, during the Civil War, and it's right next to the White House.
Is it really?
So we're sitting in a fifth level of that Treasury building, looking down on the White House when this is all going. There's protests going on all over the place, and somehow why can't I think of the name of that? It's like Congress, FBI was there. The CIA was not there. The State Department was there. So they had all these 5 different people had to prove this deal, and we had to testify in front of them. And it was wild. Yeah, you learn something. It was cool.
So between some of those acquisitions and just really
In growth, organic. We had some organic growth. We hooked huge. Right when we bought Utica, we were quoting for. General Motors decided to change the way they were doing tooling, purchasing tooling.
Yeah.
They had their own tool shops, and they were contracting out design, and they really never did the D&B side like GM and Chrysler and Ford did. They did the design only, then sent it to the machine shop, their machine shop, and sent it to their builders. I don't want to say it was inefficient, but because I don't know the numbers. It's just hard for me to say, but I can't imagine it was as efficient as competitive bidding, right? So they sent out and they said, we want to do full service contracts. And right at the time they're going to make the decision, we bought Utica. So there's only 2 guys in the game, so we got the job. And rightfully so. Ernie Westarp, who's currently the CEO of KUKA, after Mike LaRose, that I gave the job to. Ernie took that GM account, went from 0 to $500 million. You know, probably, I would say it took him about 7-8 years to do that, but we just kept grabbing up. You know, we bought Mortec, which is a great company.
Yeah.
And Mortec, funny enough, Dave Morin, I worked with him when I was like 16 years old at Stellar.
Really?
His board was literally next to mine when I was in high school. And then he started a company called Mortec, and we ended up buying it from him, which was a great people there. Great technology and great workers. Lauren was great. You know, all those guys are just good people. So they kind of absorbed into KUKA too. Yep. They were small at the time, but they grew. Like 3 times what they were before. So that was actually a great acquisition and made money off the get. It was positive, no doubt.
So when you, we'll probably talk about, I think we're going to do 2 parts, but we'll probably get into the recruiting of great people in part 2, which you absolutely did. But when you transitioned out and then Mike transitioned in, like you guys had a really good infrastructure set up. Could you just talk a little bit about that? Maybe we'll come back to it. But
yeah, I mean, one of the advantages we had at KUKA is when you're growing like that, people that would normally be in a position to move up in a company, there's a place for them to grow to. You know, so a growing company,
the vehicle's growing.
Yeah, because there's more room on the bus, let's just say. Yeah. And because we were growing, we never really lost any talent. You know, one of my best friends and somebody who I have a lot of respect for, a guy named Flo Gabor. Flo left the company because he had a great opportunity to go start a machine shop. And I always told him, first time you leave, you're welcome back anytime. I want you to be successful, learn as much as you can. Yeah. And if you want to come back, you're good. And Flo did come back after a year, and he's just a bulwark. I mean, the guy busts his ass. You can question. He's clearly a Romanian, and he's a hard-headed mother father. But I love him for it because I used to say, follow that guy around and look what he does. If you can do what he does, you're a Superman.
And he's got everyone's respect, too.
He does. Yeah, he's tough sometimes, but he's, you know, you have to, I don't want to say it's a different world. The world you guys live in, that trades is tough. Yeah. You know, I mean, to give you an example, we hire, as you know, we hire 90% of our trades. 10% is management inside of KUKA, and, you know, out on the shop floor, we flex all those guys with people like you guys. And thank you for that, by the way, because you're great at it.
Thank you.
But I can say that one time I was, very rarely do I get pissed off. In fact, I never get pissed off. But someone was writing shit on the bathroom doors at the Sterling Heights plant. In the, you know, we got the big bathroom.
Yep.
And I was pissed. It's like, hey, wait a minute, you can't do that shit. So I said, clean it all off, repaint it, and warn everybody, right? Sure enough, about a month later, people are still writing on the damn back of the thing. So I got pissed, right? I don't normally get upset, so I go downstairs. You know those spools, you know, where you get the big spools of wire?
Yeah.
I jump up, because I'm so little, I jump up on top of the spool. I said, everybody gather around here in the shop. Get everybody around me and says, look, you guys, I'm probably going to say a few swear words. I apologize for it up get. But the bottom line is, you ain't writing on our frickin' walls here. I said, you can do that shit at Paslin and Kamau and all these other places, but when you come to KUKA, this is our house, you respect it. And if I'm going to repaint these things and I'm going to fix it, and the first time I see it, I'm ripping the doors off. And the next time I see it, you ain't going to use the bathroom because you're going in an outhouse and it was middle of winter. I'll put some porta-johns out in the back alley, and that's where you're going to go to the bathroom. I said, there's no reason to do that. I wouldn't do it at your house. You shouldn't do it at my house, right? Yeah. And in reality, the contractors were great because we always had this 2-tiered system at KUKA, right? Oh, you're a contractor, you're not. And we had to get rid of that. Yeah. That was hard.
Well, you guys did a great job.
It was hard to do that.
I feel like you did, at least.
It was hard to make them, you're part of the family. You're part of the team. And then we ended up getting a list. You know, as you know, we have our own list. These are all the good people in the city. Mm-hmm. Aaron, can we please have these guys?
Yeah.
You know, or girls. And that helped a lot because then it builds a lot more, let's say, continuity.
Yeah.
From a leadership perspective. But yeah, stuff like that really cooked my goose. Like, just be respectful. It's not that complicated. You got a nice place here. No one here would ever do it. But my point was this: you're dealing with a different, and that's why Flo was tough because his attitude is I'll just kick the shit out of him. I said, no, Flo, you can't do that. They're all adults. Let's sit him down and tell them our expectations, number one, and then monitor them. It was fun. But he was tough, and he's still there. He's just a great guy. And when Mike left, we were fortunate when I left, I didn't really want to leave. I had just signed up with my boss to take over Europe again because I ran Europe for about 12 years, but I wasn't full time there. I was just responsible for them with the CEO there, and then we had to fire the CEO there. And he asked me, "Would you come back and be the CEO?" I says, "Yeah, I'll do it." I said, "But I got to fix things in Detroit. Promote a few guys." And Mike was clearly the right guy to do it. And so I just was moving to Europe, and COVID hit.
Okay.
And there's no way I'm coming back and knocking Mike out of his spot. That would not be fair to him. And in reality, I was ready. I was 60 years old, and I promised myself, I was going to retire if I could, and clearly I could. But I, like I said earlier, I do miss the people a lot. Going in and talking to them and being part of leadership is a real blessing in life, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
To get a chance to be with people. And I got so lucky. No one left our company, going back to my comment earlier, no one left our company because we had a job for them. There's more vice president jobs opening up, and we're growing. We put a service business in California and in Texas and in Boston. We had software companies all around the state, or excuse me, the country. So that that gave people jobs that they didn't have to leave to get a promotion and make more money. So it was awesome to see the people that would stay with us. We lost some good people, I think, but I couldn't name one.
Well, I mean, a testament to good leadership is how many other people you build up and are able to promote and put in a position to succeed. And I mean, you've done that with there's just a lot.
One people, and I think you guys are great at here. My window into you is very narrow because I just got here this morning. But the one person that's totally overlooked all the time and becomes really almost your right arm is your HR director.
Yeah.
And Jenny Husby was, I worked with Jenny. She was literally a clerk when I got there.
Yeah.
And we promoted a couple people. In fact, Lily Moan, Julie.
Yeah.
Not Lily Moan now, but before she was married.
Yeah.
When she worked for me at Taurus, her sister, Sherry, I put her in to run HR there, and then she left, and then Jennifer took it over.
Now she's got a big role at
now she's doing great.
Well,
yeah, she's got a great job, and she's a wonderful person too. I loved her. I still love her, but her and Chip, great family, great kids, but they were from Taurus, so she kind of came over and did that, and then Jennifer took that over, and we really built a culture that was awesome. How we helped, like I said, the PTO bank.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
It was awesome. And,
not a great thing, but you're resourceful.
I tried to do that in Europe. They won't let you because the laws won't allow it.
Yeah,
you cannot. Like I would give my bonus away to my assistants and my other people. I couldn't do it there. It's illegal to give your salary away. It's weird. They give you no flexibility to run a company over there. It takes 3 years to restructure a company. It took me 2 weeks here. Gives you an idea why they're so. And some of it I understand. You want to protect the people, and that's the right thing to do, But you see a lot of companies. We closed a company in Bordeaux, France. Took 10 years. Just to give you an idea, the difference between the United people just don't understand the United States is all the problems we do have here, and we have some. With our diversity and all the other kind of things. We still are the best place in the world to run a business, especially a small business.
Yeah.
Even with the new regulations Biden put on, it's still a better place to do it than Europe, which is just so complicated. And I get it. They protect the worker 99.9% of the time and not the company.
Mm-hmm.
But
sometimes that gets in the way.
Well, the company goes out of business because you're protecting the worker. I said, the first time I went there, we were losing millions, and I took over the company. And I had to give a speech to the whole union. Yeah. And I'm a CEO, punk kid from 39 years old, first American to be a CEO of this German company, which is 100 years old. Yeah. It was started in 1898. And I had to talk in front of these people, but I don't speak German. My assistant, of course, spoke German and English. And I told Birgit, I used to call her Gidge, You sit in the front row, and this is a big, huge, there's 2,000, 3,000 people there. I said, Gidge, you sit in the front row there, and if I say something and the interpreter says it wrong, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'll make her re-say it, right? Because she knew what I wanted to say to the people.
Yeah.
And what I talked about was there were 110, 115 years worth of leadership in this company. They used to build garbage trucks, and they did defense, turrets, got bombed the shit out of them in World War II.
Yeah.
This company's been around a long time. Executives made very difficult decisions to keep this company around 110 years. We got one right now. We have to make this decision.
Yeah.
If we don't downsize this company, we will all lose our job. And I knew there were union guys because I sent her to the smoking lounge or the smoking shops. I said, you go find out what the biggest angst is here. And they were going to attack me. There was guys, and I can see them in the front row. They're itching, to get me. I knew I was in trouble. And the funny thing is the dude that I knew was going to attack me, and he was going to get laid off, without a doubt. He came up to me after the thing and said, "Okay, I understand. I get it." And gave me a big hug, and it was really the chance for me they gave me at least a little runway to move forward. But you just tell them straight, we're in trouble. Here's the numbers. I ain't lying to you.
Yeah.
But it's same with Germany. Here, it was just a big fat company with bureaucracy, and we're part of this big publicly traded company. They'll give us money. And I said, no. Our job is to make money.
Yeah.
We have to contribute, not suck off the big vine. But it was cool. Learned a lot.
Wow.
That was one of the coolest things I ever did. Most scary moment, though, no doubt.
Well, thanks for sharing that story. That was usually I'll talk to someone about their story for about 5 minutes, but I just wanted to let that go.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, it was awesome.
Trust me, I could talk for 4
awesome.
hours. Which is my weakness and my strength, unfortunately.
I mean, it's quite the story. So I just want to say thanks for sharing. So I think we're going to take a break, and we're going to do a part 2 with Larry where we ask him some general business questions. So thank you for tuning in, and tune in to part 2 as well.